This week in the north, brave collectives start to establish themselves in purblind, but defensive agreements are made. In the south, RERMPI are under pressure with attacks occurring on multiple fronts as FI.RE continues to claim territory, and in low-sec, a random Athanor leads to a catfight. Hello pod people, I am Frost and this is your weekly EVE Online update. So to my regular viewers, welcome back, and to my new viewers who found me through Community Beat, welcome to you too. This is the show about player-initiated conflict and everything that happened in the last week. And if you're not familiar with any of the terms that I use, please do ask in the comments and I will do my best to reply. If not, we have a great community here and I'm sure some other players would help you out as well. Okay, so first up, what we do as always is I announce the winners of the Scope Syndication skins, which I give away 2 a week. And at the moment, it's the Vedmak skin, which looks absolutely awesome. Now, one of my winners has come forward. That is Ulysses Delacour, so congratulations to Ulysses. But Daniel Bauer, that is your YouTube name, you've yet to connect to claim your Vedmak skin. So please check the comments and get in touch with me through my Discord and I can sort that out for you. And as always, I have 2 more skins to give away a little bit later on. Right, okay, so jump up into my box and we have the new Eden map in front of us. I'm going to have my pen at the ready. Let me see if I've got it working. There we go. Right, so the areas we're going to be focusing on this week. In the north, we have Purblind, which is where Brave Collective are moving. And then we're going to be covering all of the south. Hang on, let me just mute that so that my pen doesn't make any background noise. There we go. All right, and in the south, we're basically covering a lot of areas. So we are going to be talking about all of these areas around here. In fact, we'll mention that one as well because it's relevant. So there you go. So those are the kind of the areas that I'm going to be covering. So let's start with the north and cover Purblind. So the big news with Purblind, which I mentioned last week, was that Brave Collective are moving from Geminate and are going to attempt to settle in Purblind. Now, the terms of this are there are no terms, except the Greater Trash Coalition, who we have, let's see, Panic, which is Hysteria, and Toilet Paper are part of said alliance, Greater Trash Coalition. We've got some Volta up here as well, which is also part of Greater Trash Coalition. So those guys have gone, we're not going to try and stop you, but we'll come and get content. Then obviously we've got all the locals as well. And this is where it gets really, really interesting. So Brave have already put down a Fortizar in 5ZXX-K. And also obviously there is an NPC station there as well, which means they can't be evicted. You know, they can always use the station and fall back to the station even if the Fortizar gets destroyed. So Brave are there and Brave have numbers. And the first thing we can see is Brave already succeeded in taking 2 iHubs in Purblind. And one would presume that they're going to try and go for the whole constellation. As we can see, a couple of more systems have been reinforced there. Now, the question is that what are the locals going to do about it? Well, I've been in touch with a few people, and one of the main groups here is Bandalogs Alliance, which, if I remember correctly, is primarily a Russian-speaking community. I think the .ru ticker kind of gives it away. But Bandalogs are teaming up with a whole bunch of people that live in the NPC regions, which are highlighted in pink right here, in an attempt to defend against Brave. Sorry, my pen is going all over the place today. Me and my pen issues. It was just link that one up like that. There we go. Set of earrings. There's some cherries. There we go. Never mind. All right. My doodles are awful. Okay, so the main thing is who do these groups consist of? Well, as I understand, it's Bandalogs Alliance, Nosseknaya Shalupan, Picatron, Projects versus Pilots, the Hive Mind, Federation Alliance, Tiberian Shadow, and a brand new alliance that has been created out of the roots of the original founders of Vindictive, or there is some relationship to Vindictive there, called Recall Alliance. So all of these groups are planning to fight against the Brave, what they consider to be a Brave invasion into Purblind. Now, that still leaves Quote Alliance, who are not affiliated to any coalition, who are right here. And then obviously Flying Dangerous, the other group, which are the ones that are a bit under attack at the moment. Neither of these are affiliated to a coalition. They kind of lived peacefully, as I understand, with Bandalogs and also Greater Trash Coalition in Pureblind. So obviously toilet paper and Hysteria, their iHubs haven't been hit. Hysteria also being out of the blue are also kind of in this area. They haven't been hit yet, so I assume, or one could presume, that they're not going to get involved unless their structures get hit. We will have to see. So that's going to be something to look out for, and hopefully we'll see some good fights coming out of that. And it'll be interesting to see if the numbers of Brave can match up against the well-entrenched forces that have already been situated in Pureblind for quite a while. So there you go, that kind of brings us up to date with Pureblind. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go over to the south, because in the south lots of things are brewing, there's lots of people involved, and the number of people getting involved is growing apparently by the week. So I'm going to try and give you an overview of kind of who's who. So first of all, we're going to start with Fire Coalition. Now Fire Coalition have been spreading out a fair bit. So they basically, their territory covers Cache, Scalding Pass, Wicked Creek. We're going to cover Immensea as well, Tenerife. So some of these are obviously contested, but those are kind of the areas of influence of Fire Coalition. Then we have Wrecking Crew. Now Wrecking Crew are in Providence and Catch, and also we're putting claims into Immensea. Then we have PIBC, which has these systems down here in the south. And then finally we have Red Menace Coalition, kind of stuck right in the middle right there. So straight away you could probably see that the areas that are going to create some interest are Feythabolis and Immensea, and we will be talking about those quite a bit. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of go into all of the regions and how they all kind of affect each other. So the first up is Tenerife. Now Tenerife, Wrecking Crew were really focused on trying to harass as much as possible in Tenerife, to harass Fire Coalition and Dragon Dynasty, who are now aligned to Fire Coalition. At the beginning it was kind of just, oh yeah, we're happy to have you here, it's not a problem, and it's kind of grown into kind of a more of a formal agreement from what I can see. But the main system that's been a focus has been down here, T2-V8F. Now there is a Dread Bomb Fortizar there, and that has been used as a staging system by Wrecking Crew, Dread Bomb in particular, to project not only into Tenerife, but also you can see that there is a regional gate into Feythabolis as well. Excuse me, so it gave them some very good projection. Now, one of the things that has been happening, excuse me, losing my voice early on in the show, not a good sign. Right, so what has been noticed in the last, well, very recently of this show, is that a whole bunch of Dread Bomb capitals have been jumping from T2-V8F all the way up to 3L3N-X. Now, what this potentially means is that this may be a withdrawal by Dread Bomb, in particular, Wrecking Crew as a whole. If that is the case, that potentially changes a lot of the dynamics within this area of nullsec, particularly with RERMPI. RERMPI being made up of Wrecking Crew, Red Menace Coalition, and PIBC, all working in accord against Fire Coalition. So if Dread Bomb or Wrecking Crew as a whole do not feel that they can hold T2-V8F, then that could be very, very problematic for the other groups that are fighting against Fire in the future. So this is going to be one to look at, and we'll have to see if this Fortizar actually gets destroyed in the coming week. Now, it has been reinforced a couple of times and been defended, so that is very much something to look out for this week. So then what we're going to do is we're going to jump over to Esoteria. Now, Esoteria is home to PIBC. Now, one of the biggest groups in PIBC is Army of Mango. There's also Evictus, I think there's Vindictive, and I'm probably missing another group. Let me see if I can have a look at my notes, see if I can look at my coalition list and see if I'm missing anybody. Now, Army of Mango, Evictus, and Vindictive, there we go. So, what happened was there was a anchoring Fortizar that belonged to Army of Mango. Now, one of the things that Army of Mango is to be aware of is the Army of Mango have been under attack from Fraternity for a while now. Now, Fraternity are up in the north, but there is a long-standing bitterness between these two groups. And as I understand, a Fraternity have actually deployed down to Stain, Stain being NPC space, so they can't be evicted from there. And I believe they've even got some structures in there as well. And they're using that to then push into Esoteria and into PIBC space in general. Now, AOM don't have the numbers compared to Fraternity, but obviously Fraternity are a long way from home, so they haven't got all their players deployed down there. But still, it is an overwhelming force. Now, a number of things have been done by Army of Mango to counter this. One of the ways they've countered this is to put their structures into US time zone. So obviously Fraternity being primarily Chinese-based or Chinese time zone, that means that it puts them in relative security. Not necessarily from the rest of Winter Coalition, because Fraternity is part of Winter Coalition, that covers a lot of different time zones, but Fraternity specifically is more Chinese time zone oriented, as is Army of Mango. So they put their structures into US time zone. Now I have a battle report here, and you can see this is for HHQM1. Let me just go back to my map and just give you a squiggle. There we go, right there. So right next to NPC state. Now, this battle report, the things to look at here is, first of all, we're already seeing some fairly balanced numbers, but the people that had to protect the structure were not Army of Mango because it's the wrong time zone for them. So the primary group that came to the rescue was Evictus. Now, Evictus are part of PIBC, as I mentioned, but we have also Wrecking Crew, which is people such as the Rogue Consortium. In fact, let me just do little squiggles like that. Dread Bomb, Weapons of Mass Production, Purple Helmeted Warriors. And then from there, you could see that the numbers that were brought were not very high. And this is going to be a problem. Now, one of the groups that was highlighted to me was Out of the Blue. Now, Out of the Blue, if you remember, are all the way up north and a part of Greater Trash Coalition. And it is my understanding that they have been contracted by Army of Mango to provide support to them against Fraternity's attack, or Winter Coalition. So I mentioned Fraternity already, and then you can see we've got Lord here as well, who are part of Winter Coalition, as is Blades of Grass. But then we have Steinrus getting involved as well. So Steinrus are the Russian speaking groups that are based out of NPC Stein, which include Fast Kicks, Ferrata Victrix. I believe Good Sacks are also a part of that group. And then let me go back to my blue one. I've got literally triggered there, by the way, who are also part of Winter Coalition. So we're seeing kind of two specific groups here. So on the right, we have Winter Coalition with Steinrus. And then on the left, we have RERMPI. So we've got Evictus, who are part of PIBC. We then have Wrecking Crew, which is all the ones that I showed you before. And then we then have Red Alliance, sorry in advance, who are part of Red Menace Coalition, who also came to help. But the main thing that you see is that, like I said, Army of Mango could only show 2 to protect their own INIT Fortizars because it's not their time zone. And so as a consequence of this, they're heavily reliant on their US time-based allies. Now, as I said before, what we saw from Tenerife is that if Wrecking Crew are pulling out from Tenerife, which may be the case, then does this mean that they're not going to get involved in protecting PIBC and helping PIBC under kind of the whole RERMPI umbrella? If that's the case, then that could change things drastically for this region. So there you go. So that kind of covers the thing I wanted to point out in Esoteria. Then we're going to move on and we're going to go over to Immensea. Now, Immensea is kind of a mess. So as I talked last week, that what we saw some groups from FI.RE Coalition, some of them who had just recently joined FI.RE Coalition, such as Celestial Empire and Lollipop Monopoly, whilst others that are more established, like Black Rose, which is the kind of new player group of FI.RE Coalition, and obviously already replaced as well, who are down here and are slowly but surely kind of making their mark in Immensea. Celestial Empire being over here, Lollipop Monopoly being down here, and then Black Rose being up here. So most of the focus, let me just get my delete pen and do a blue one. So with Black Rose, most of the fighting in Immensea has been based around this area, as Black Rose are kind of trying to push out the Rogue Consortium, which are part of Wrecking Crew, out of these two constellations. Now there were some renters here, which Black Rose, basically as the renters moved out, Black Rose bought a bunch of their structures from them at a very low price. And these are the ones that are getting hit by Wrecking Crew as a response to that. But if I can bring up a battle report again. So this time we're going to talk about B-R5RB, which is very famous. Big fight has happened there in the past. I think it was the biggest fight until M-2 or M-2 recently. M2 dash, I can't even remember. I was there and I can't even remember the system name now. So many months ago. All right, so B-R. So B-R, what I wanted to show here was the number of alliances that took place in this. So what was it? So it was over the Fortizar that Black Rose bought from these renters. And as you can see, the thing that's really interesting here is who showed up. So Team B is FI Coalition. And FI Coalition are made up of a lot of alliances now. I think at the last count, I counted 14 alliances, not including renters. So the number is growing all the time. And then we have RERMPI, who are Team C. So that includes, as I said, Wrecking Crew, PIBC, and Red Menace Coalition. And then we had some third parties as well. And this is kind of where it's really interesting because over on the, I'm going to do it in pink, in Team D, we have the Imperium. So the Imperium showed up for this. And then in Team A, so let's use the blue pen for that, we have PanFam, Test Alliance, and Nalseknaya Shalupan, who are kind of Winter Coalition. So overall, we had kind of everybody just kind of roll into this one for this fight. Now, I think a lot of bat phones were involved in this. I believe Test showed up early. I don't think Pandemic Horde and Nalseknaya Shalupan showed up afterwards. I don't know what happened with the Imperium, whether they showed up as well. But it's just to show you that this could potentially snowball into something much, much bigger. So especially if Wrecking Crew kind of pull out, which is possible, then at that point, that puts PIBC and Red Menace Coalition in a very weak position against FI Coalition. And there may be a need for bigger bat phones to be used. So we'll have to see. Once again, that's pure speculation. But the main thing is to show the level of groups that were involved in this. Now, in the end, the Fortizar was saved simply by overwhelming numbers. I mean, if you look, I can't remember who, I don't think Imperium were specifically trying to help. I think they were just third partying. So you basically had 335 versus 171, so 500 versus 215. So that's not gonna work. And so the Fortizar was saved. All right, so now we're going to move on to another, actually before we move from Immensea as well, have I covered everything here? Now, the other thing to be aware of as well in terms of projection is that if you remember, these XIX systems have been here for quite a few weeks now. And so what this means is that FI Coalition have a jump bridge network that goes all the way into Immensea. And so even though it's kind of a long way from their home territories, if I go to the general map, universe map, you can see that they're basically these are the home regions of FI Coalition, but they can get into Immensea very easily from either Tenerife or from Immensea through their jump bridge network. So it's something to be aware of. Okay, so then we come on to Feythabolis. Now, Feythabolis is very much an area where there's a lot of contesting going on. So FI Coalition have been establishing renters here. One of the groups which I wanted to point out was COSCO, which is Cosmic Coalition. If you remember, they were all the way up in Tribute in Winter Coalition territory until Nalseknaya Shalupan took their iHubs, which haven't been taken back yet by, not Nalseknaya Shalupan, sorry, my bad, Volta took their iHubs. Nalseknaya Shalupan then took 2 back, but still 3 Volta or 4 Volta iHubs are still up there in Tribute. So it looks like Costco actually moved out, and obviously this is a long way from Tribute, so it took them a while to get down here, and it looks like they've set themselves up as renters in Feythabolis under FI Coalition. So it is a war zone, so it's an interesting choice to make, and we will see how that shows up. Although having said that, I think they did show up on the battle report, so it looks like they are actually doing their thing. There we go, so there's 7 pilots there from Costco. Who are then providing support to FI Coalition. So interesting to see that as well. So let me go back to my Feythabolis map. Now, the main area of conflict here is the FI Coalition are focusing their efforts on Evictus in this area here. Now, Evictus are also in Esoteria, but it's mainly Feythabolis. Now, you should understand as well why FI Coalition are focusing Invictus more than other groups within PIBC. For example, OMIST has been left completely untouched, which is Army of Mango. Now, from the point of view of FI Coalition, I would imagine that Army of Mango they don't have to worry about anyway, because Army of Mango are very busy with Fraternity and Steinruus. But more importantly, IOU or Invictus were part of Legacy Coalition. Legacy Coalition being headed up by the main alliance being Test Alliance, please ignore. Now, when when Legacy Coalition imploded with the end of the war between Pappy and the Imperium, Invictus decided to not go and stay close to Test Alliance, but instead ended up joining PIBC and decided to stay in Feythabolis. Now, XIX in particular have very, very close relationships with Test Alliance, mainly due to when the DRF fell and DRF were pushed out of the drone regions and XIX needed a couch. Test helped them out with that, and they built up a very strong relationship and a very close relationship as a consequence of that. And so the Russian-speaking alliances are very big on loyalty, and I would assume that they would consider Invictus's decision to not be a loyal move towards Test, and there may be some personal grievances there in regard to that. So that may explain why Invictus are kind of being targeted very heavily right now by FI Coalition. So what happened? Well, the main thing that was a Tatara that died. So I just wanted to show this very quickly. Obviously, it was a kind of an expensive one as well at 52 billion, primarily because it had T2 rigs. T2 rigs, if I can get my pen to turn off. There we go. The T2 rigs accounting for 38 billion, there we go, of that kill mail. But if we look at the battle report here, you can see that once again, the main issue here is one of blobbing. So FI Coalition being able to bring 212 to that kill mail, whilst Invictus and PIBC were only able to bring 78. And as you can see as well from this list over on this side, that none of the other groups, as in Red Menace Coalition or Wrecking Crew, were able to come to their help. So this may be a problem in the future, and it's something to be looking at. So from Invictus' point of view, you can see they brought tornadoes. It's kind of your standard, that and Tempest. You stick them on the structure and you just take sniping shots at whatever's trying to kill your structure. So kind of standard maneuver there. But unfortunately, it wasn't enough, and FI Coalition were able to take out that Tatara. And obviously the other thing as well is that, as we saw, mentioned last week, XIX are kind of implanted right into Invictus constellation there. And we may see some SOV warfare taking place in the next week and more structures getting hit in Invictus territory. So that's something to look out for. All right, so then that leaves us with a very interesting situation that right now, Impasse, which is home to Red Menace Coalition, is kind of stuck in the middle. And nobody's kind of going for them right now. So obviously you've got, Army of Mango, PIBC dealing with Fraternity, Winter Coalition, and Steinruus. You've got PIBC also fighting off through Invictus, fighting off FI Coalition on another side. And Red Menace Coalition are in the middle. But Red Menace Coalition and FI.RE Coalition do not see eye to eye. So whether that will remain as it is, or whether that will change in the future, is once again something we're going to have to look at or keep an eye on. I would imagine that if Invictus are evicted, which is a distinct possibility due to the overwhelming numbers from FI Coalition, unless Invictus can find good support soon, then we may see Impasse also being hit by FI Coalition, and FI Coalition literally spreading all over the southeast and gaining ground all the time. Whether they overstretch themselves, which is what they did with DRF, remains to be seen. Obviously, one would imagine they've learnt from their failures in the past and making sure they build themselves up a strong defensive structure to be able to take this. Or maybe they just want to expand and then contract afterwards. We'll have to see. Anyway, time for the giveaway. I think it's well overdue. So as always, the giveaway is 2 scope syndication skins. The way you enter it is you have to put a comment in down below, and the comment has to include a keyword. So this week I'm going to really mix it up. So VedMac, by the way, there we go, VedMac skin for the scope syndication skin. I'm going to really mix it up this week by saying that we can use anything that is Triglavian related. So you can mention Triglavian ships, so the Vedmak, my favorite, the Zinatra, the Kikimora. You can mention the Triglavian clades. You can say the word Triglavian. Anything Triglavian related will qualify you for entry into the prize draw. And the cutoff date will be Friday the 15th at 1800 UTC. So you got before then to enter your comment and to be included in the prize draw. Then I just do a random pick. And the moment you said something Triglavian related, then you will have won a skin. And I will then leave a comment for you to contact me via Discord. All right, so by the way, it'll make more sense as to why we're talking about the Triglavians a little bit later on in the show. Okay, so now back to our map, and this time we're going to go to Curse. But I'm going to go through Catch because there's always a better way of doing it. So the system we're going to be talking about is OSHT, or OSHT-A, which is on the border with Catch. And there is a Initiative Fortizar armor timer that came up, and a fight broke out because of this literally last night. So that was Sunday night. That's Sunday the 10th of October. Had to remember what month we were in there for a minute. And I have a battle report here somewhere. Let me see if I can find it. No, that's the battle report for that one. No, that's not it either. Where is it? There we go. Got it. So essentially what happened here. So it was a armor timer for a Fortizar that belonged to the Initiative. But we had a good showing from various groups. So FI Coalition brought Cerberuses, Horde brought Munins, and Test brought Munins. And all of those were the attackers. And they were attacking the Fortizar. And then defending the Fortizar, we had the Imperium, who had fleets of Cerberuses and Eagles, and Red Menace Coalition also made a small showing with a bunch of tornadoes. So what happened was basically the Serbs that belonged to FI Coalition focused on hitting the Fortizar, and they were engaged by an initiative-led Eagle fleet. I say initiative-led because it was an initiative SC, but there were Goon Swarm members in that as well. So it's initiative-led rather than INIT solely. And they had a good little fight going on, trading Logi. In the meantime, there were Munins that belonged to the Imperium, not Munins, belonged to Horde and Test, who were camping the U-Q gate. So if you remember, if we go back to this map, the U-Q gate was the point of entry right here into Curse. And so these Munins, I've lost my battle report now, there we go. So these Munins were holding the gate to try and stop reinforcement fleets coming in from Goon Swarm led. So by the time it got 8 minutes left on the timer, I think the structure was at about 60% by now, the Imperium were able to break through with some losses and then make it onto grid. And then a big fight broke out, a big full-on brawl, and the structure got down to 40%, and I think the timer got too low by that point, and FI Coalition, Horde, Pandemic Horde, and Test Alliance, please ignore, decided to disengage, and the Fortizar was saved. But what came out of this is that everybody said good fights, and the reason why is we had really good numbers here. So you had 3-4-6 versus 3-3-6, which is enough to kick off a bit of tie-dye, but not to make it like excruciating. You can still have like a really good fight. The fight ended up being really balanced in terms of ISKs and ships lost. And so it's kind of like fair trading on both sides. And also it was, that scenario where you have like 4 or 5 fleets all doing different things, but with not excessive numbers, so that it created a really interesting fight that was very active, that took place on multiple locations, the Fortizar, the U-Q gate, and it made it just very interesting for everybody that took part. So hopefully we'll get more fights like that. Those are kind of the dream fights that everybody hopes for in kind of nullsec, and it's good to see that they do still come up occasionally. Right, so that covers the fight for OSHT-A Fortizar that belonged to INIT. Then I'm going to cover Demoid quickly. So in Devoid. So in Devoid and in the low-sec system of Halma, there was a fight that broke out, which was kind of pretty much the only capital fight that I'm aware of this week. And it started by accident more than anything, that dock workers decided to just shoot up a random Athanor. This Athanor Didn't seem to belong to anybody of note, but they thought we'd reinforce it and see what happens. As it turned out, this Athanor belonged to Nullsec Shulupin. So Nullsec Shulupin came up to defend it in Sleipnir. I haven't seen a Sleipnir in ages, and some Hurricane Fleet issues, so good to see some Sleipnirs about. And then dock workers showed up in EOSs. So I have to say right now, the initiative used to be the ship divas, but initiative, you're not going to be able to keep that mantle if you don't start leaving the Kikamuras behind and doing something else. Because dock workers are showing up in a whole bunch of stuff, and they may take your title from you as the ship divas of Eve. So they came up with a bunch of EOSs, fight broke out. Oh, and by the way, Horde came along as well, one specific corporation, Blackwater USA, which I believe have personal links with Nullsec Shulupin. So they came up to support NSH. Fight broke out, some caps came out, some dreads came out, and some faxes, and a bunch of stuff got shot. And overall, it was fairly even as it could be. It's 28 billion on one side, 18 billion on the other. But I think once again, good fights all round on that. And an unexpected fight that wasn't expected that kind of came out of nowhere because no one was aware really of the relationship of NSH to that Athanor. All right, then something I need to talk about from last week. Now I need to bring up my structures here and bring up my Fortizars. So the main thing I wanted to talk about, I mentioned it last week, that a whole bunch of Fortizars were dying belonging to wholesale operations in Nullsec. Now this all started on September the 18th, which is literally the time I went away for about 10 to 12 days. And I didn't really know what was going on because it was unusual to see kind of this level of eviction happening and so many people being involved. Now, this is what I understand has happened, is that essentially wholesale operations kind of broke the code of wormholes. And they started rolling specifically for C6 wormholes, which are mostly owned by Hard Knock citizens and their friends, and started attacking crabbing groups or crabbing pilots, which is kind of a bit of a no-no within the wormhole side of things. They also wholesale operations decided to attack and evict other corps who weren't were being kind of had no reason to be evicted. They were kind of following the rules of the wormholes. And so this put them very much on the bad side of not only Hard Knocks, but two other groups as well, particularly Laserhawks and Inner Hell. Now, for those of you that are aware of kind of wormhole life, those are kind of three massive groups within the wormhole community. Now, Hard Knock citizens have coverage from AU time zone all the way to EU. Laserhawks cover all time zones. Inner Hell are primarily Russian speaking, so that is their time zone. So there was kind of nowhere for wholesale operations to hide, as all the time zones were pretty much covered. And so they've been basically suffering their own eviction, and this is why we've been seeing all of these structures dying from wholesale operations over those last couple of weeks. I haven't seen any recently, so I don't know whether it's finished, and if anyone can keep me up to date with that, I'd appreciate it. And you can get me in touch with me through the Discord, whose name I've forgotten now. If I can bring it up again, I have so many. Praise Bob, there we go. So I'm on Praise Bob, so if you want to get in touch with me, then please do, and keep me up to date on what's happening with all of that. Okay, then where are we at? I think that's about it. So the only thing I've got to mention as well, I always want to talk about raw calls and whaling kills. Last week we only had 11 raw calls and 5 ratting supers. So previous weeks we've been seeing 30 raw calls a week dying on average, so about half the usual number. Maybe it's to do with the fights that are brewing up now, or just simply got a little bit quiet. So who knows? Now, let's cover some other PvE events. Oh, no, not that yet. That comes later. Hang on. Right, Totality Day. So I want to bring Totality Day to your attention. So this is why I was talking about the Triglavian stuff. So with Totality Day, that is the anniversary of Pochven being formed and the Triglavians winning and taking their all of these systems and turning them into their own space. And as a consequence of this, the Triglavian community have decided to do a number of fleets. A lot of these are public fleets, so they're all listed here. I will link in the description below. There's also some roleplay stuff going on as well later on in the week. So there's stuff this weekend. I think it's something on Wednesday as well. So that's October 13th being Wednesday and October 16th being the Saturday. And then, so there you go. So that's all the stuff that's going on with that. So have a look at that and see if you want to take part. and there's obviously giveaways and all that kind of good stuff already. Then now we're going to come on to this bit. So you know that I like well-made propaganda. So this is made by FI Coalition, or XIX specifically, against Red Alliance. As you can see, it's taken from the Mummy, from the language of slaves scene. And it is in Russian, but the good news is I also have it in English. I will link both of them below. So this is the Russian version. So let me switch over to the English version. There we go. And yeah, it's very well done. It's very funny. I always appreciate some tongue-in-cheek propaganda. So it is unlisted, but you can find it through my link below in the description. So go check that out. And yeah, there you go. I think that's it for this week. Yeah, that's everything from me. So as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell icon for notifications. Thank you very much for watching the show. It's appreciated. Do hit that subscribe button. I am trying to kind of push the subs up a little bit, especially it's been quiet over the last few weeks. And yeah, come and join me on my Discord. That's linked in the description as well. And then you can keep in touch. We talk about all the stuff that's, like I say, player-based conflict in EVE Online. And also you can DM me if you've got any information that you want to impart, etc., etc. All right, that's all from me. See you on the next one. Bye.